I just finished watching the finale of Invincible Season 3, and this episode absolutely blew my mind, and honestly, the same can be said about this entire season. It really surpassed all my expectations, so I gotta go over all my thoughts on the best parts of both this finale episode and the entire season as a whole, so spoilers ahead for everything this season. First of all, we're gonna talk about Episode 8, because this episode, everything with Mark versus Conquest, was better than I could ever imagine it could be, because this episode starts with literally 30 straight minutes of Invincible versus Conquest, and honestly, for most TV shows, the fight and action scenes are sometimes some of my least favorite parts of the episodes because I feel like they can get really repetitive or just be super dull, but this was the most engaging fight scene I've seen in a super long time. I don't even know if the word brutal covers the things that were happening to Mark in this episode. Obviously, people always make memes, and I've even complained before about Mark losing so many fights, but it's always because he's holding back. In this episode, we just saw him clearly outmatched. He could not stand a chance against Conquest. He was getting packed up the entire episode. Seeing Oliver come in to try to save the day and help Mark out and almost getting just ripped straight in half was absolutely insane. They were not holding back at all in this episode. But I'm sorry, as great as everything with Mark versus Conquest was, we have to give the MVP of this episode to Atom Eve. She finally got her chance to shine in a fight scene, fully utilizing the maximum strength of her powers, and it was worth all the wait. The entire sequence of her first using her powers to protect herself, use all these super creative ways with her powers to attack Conquest was great. Then she just straight up gets her guts ripped out by Conquest, literally pretty much dies. Then pretty much has like a reawakening, unlocking parts of her powers that have been locked away her entire life to absolutely fry Conquest. Of course, this dude's a beast, eats it, and then we see Mark just going crazy with the headbutts. I also need everybody to apologize that was making fun of Conquest's voice. I made a video defending it after last week, and we only heard his like one line from Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I thought he was perfect in this episode as just this super menacing lunatic, especially like when he leaned down and started talking to Mark in the middle of their fight, being like, hey, I'm incredibly lonely, I don't even have a name, all I have is a mission, Conquest, everybody's afraid of me because of how powerful I am. Jeffrey Dean Morgan really gave this voice performance his absolute all. It was incredible. Obviously, Conquest gets presumably defeated, it looks like he's dead and everything, and Mark tells Cecil, hey, just straight up burn the body, get rid of this thing, he's done for, and Cecil, being the Cecil that he is, just does not do that. Cecil decides, no, I'm gonna keep Conquest alive in this super layer underground that's set to explode if he makes any movement, but we need him to stay alive so we can learn more about Viltrum and the Viltrumites. Again, just like this entire season, I see where Cecil is coming from, and I understand a lot of the other decisions he made in the season, I was defending Cecil, but this one just seems so destined to backfire. I'm 99% sure that Conquest is breaking out of this thing. I really appreciated the Rex funeral scene because his death in the last episode hit incredibly hard, but obviously it was in the middle of the war, so it kind of had to be brushed over decently fast because there was just so much other chaos going on. So I love now that we're finally done with all the chaos for the moment, we got to have this nice calmer moment seeing everybody attend Rex's funeral. I'm not gonna lie, Mark kind of just straight up smiling throughout the whole funeral. Like, I understand he was just so happy that Eve's still alive, but that's still your like number one homie that's dead. You could at least shed one tear during the funeral. Dude was so unfazed, he didn't even care that Eve went up there and talked about Rex being her first everything. I was crying about him. Obviously, I'm just joking. This isn't like a complaint about the episode. It was just kind of funny. I think this episode did a really great job of having a concise setup for season 4 at the end. It didn't take a lot of time. We got one quick Damien Darkblood scene, seeing what he's conjuring up here. We saw that battle beast. Obviously, he's still alive. They found him in space. And I'll play the clip in a minute, but the last line we see from Mark at the end of this episode showing how fully broken he is and how he's not holding back anymore was honestly just so perfect and kind of bone-chilling.
So if anyone else ever puts my family or anyone I love at risk, I won't hesitate to kill them.
I'd honestly be really surprised if this episode wasn't in every Invincible fan's top 3 favorite episodes of the show. I honestly think it is my favorite of the entire show so far, but I am due for a season 1 rewatch. And just some quick thoughts overall on season 3 and why it was so incredible. I think what really worked in the season is it just felt like all the pieces we've been setting up finally clicked into place, and I know we only have crazier places to go from here on out, but this is just the start of an insane run the show's gonna go on. Like, every single week had either an amazing epic battle, some huge reveal, great development with Mark and Atom Eve's relationship. It just had something every week that you could point to and be like, wow, that was just a really great moment. Whereas season 2 had that very few and far in between, in my opinion. And this show just really got into the topic more so than the first 2 seasons of just morality in the superhero world, which is always one of the most interesting things you can talk about. Like, that's what makes Daredevil so great. That's what makes this so great. Mark and his power that he has, choosing to hold back and not kill these people versus being kind of forced into doing it with the amazing threats he's facing now. The show's already been renewed for season 4 and 5. Apparently season 4 will be coming out in 2026 at some point, so glad it's not like 2 years away or anything. If you want to see all my other Invincible characters, like my top 10 best and worst character rankings, recaps of all the other episodes, favorite title card drops, and more, click the playlist above my head now. Thank you so much for watching.